Since I was 14, I've been buying cars off Facebook to resell them. So in this video, I'm gonna go over exactly how I look for underpriced deals. All right, first up is this $1,200 2006 Saab with 100,000 miles. That seems like a great price. It's mechanic special, and so we're not sure what's wrong with it, and it's gonna need a tow, so I don't want this one. What about this $1,500 minivan? Minivans usually sell for more because they're great for families and reliable. Some people use them to work. I'd say as long as there's no issues with this car, even though it has 200,000 miles, for $1,500, it's definitely a worthwhile deal to buy. This is an older car, 1999. Usually I don't like to buy them super old. It says start up and run and no AC. It's probably been sitting there for a while. I'm not gonna want this, even though it seems good. I bet when you show up, it's not gonna be as good as they say. I'm gonna click this. It says starts and runs, but needs repair, but we don't know what it needs. It's been really reliable. Recently, it's had some issues, and it's missing the front grille. That's really not a big deal. It seems like they don't know what's wrong with it. Yeah, the front grille can just be replaced easily. Was that? I thought that was a head. Is that guy? Okay. That might be a guy wearing a crop top. That's pretty crazy. Anyways, let's see. I think it's a girl. Anyways, there is some dings back here, and when they don't know what the issue is, sometimes it's the best cars to buy because you can get them for really good deals, and they're usually easy to fix. You just need to replace a part or something like that. And then as you see in this picture over here, the faded headlight, that's not a big deal. So I'm actually gonna buy a Carfax for this, and we'll see if there's anything wrong with it on there. Here's the Carfax, and we can see it has 150,000 miles, which is actually pretty good. And they didn't list it in the listing, which is good because usually people wouldn't know that. They'd have to ask them. So it just kind of helps us figure out more about this car. You can see the Carfax value is 4,000. That's not always accurate, but it can be good. We'll check out what it's actually worth if this Carfax checks out. And right away we can see it looks like it was not, it was a lease vehicle, which is somewhat fine. It was for 40,000 miles, so it was maybe a little beat up, but this is an older car. It really doesn't matter. There was some minor damage in an accident. Again, the accident itself doesn't matter as long as it's fixed up good enough when it's on these flip cars. And when you're just selling $3,000 to $5,000 cars, nobody really cares if it's been in a little accident. What I will say is in the listing, if we go back, it said it's been really reliable, but recently it's had some issues. And as we can see on the Carfax, recently it was in an accident, and that was the last report on this Carfax, meaning he probably got it in an accident and broke a whole bunch of stuff behind that grill right there. It doesn't look too bad. It might be oh, yeah, see, I just noticed. Right there, you can see a crease in that crash guard, which is not good to see. It means everything's probably off skew. The alignment might not be good, and the issues they're talking about likely happened from the crash, and I just noticed the hood's all beat up. So we don't want it, even though it's good miles and good price. But what about this $1,500 Ford Explorer? It has a bad transmission. Bad transmission equals a no to me. $2,000 for only 88,000 miles. Salvage title, airbag light on, not pretty from the outside. It seems like it doesn't have any, the bumper's pretty messed up, but it doesn't have any major check engine lights or anything. The airbag, it's not that big of a deal. It still drives fine and everything. But just because of how bad this bumper is, you could definitely go get another bumper from like a junkyard or something. And you'd also probably need a fender, and then you need to polish the paint and just all of that. It's just gonna take a lot of work. And to be honest, I like really simple flips that just need some easy, quick fixes. You can fix in a couple days. This one, I guess you could fix in a couple days, but there's gonna be some better deals out here. Like maybe this one. It's $2,000. It runs great. Slight overheating might be the water pump. Honestly, if it's slight overheating, usually it's just a little leak, and you can just fix it pretty easily. This one has 160,000 miles. I like 150,000 and less, but that doesn't mean I won't buy one with up to 200,000 miles. But I'm gonna put this car into another tab, and let's see what other similar ones are going for to see if it's worth buying. So here's one for almost $5,000. These ones are completely destroyed and higher miles. And then like this one's $900. I bet there's something wrong with it. It needs to be towed, doesn't even start or crank. Here's a $3,000 one. Yeah, it seems like they're all going around $3,000 to even $5,000. So buying this and just fixing the overheating, which shouldn't be too hard. You just take off all those stickers, restore the trim a little bit, check under those things on the, I forgot what they're called, seat covers. check under them, look for rips, check under those floor mats. It might be messed up carpet under there just because those floor mats look horrible. And I'd also ask them before even going just so I knew. You can see there's a little bit of wear and tear. There's some like, I'm not sure if that's paint or what's up with that. But this is a nice car where you can kind of just fix it up pretty quickly and it'll look a lot better. And I think you could probably negotiate it down to $1,500 at least, probably even lower. And you could resell it all day for maybe $3,500. Real fast, if you're getting into car flipping, I'd like to give you a free Carfax. A Carfax report's gonna tell you your car's history, or it might help you buy a car with hidden problems, like what we're doing right now. It'll tell you if it's been an accident, had a lot of owners, or hasn't been serviced in years. I've literally never bought in a car without one, because if you do, you're gonna get scammed. They're normally $45, but this is my gift to you. Completely free. Just click the link in the description, enter your email, and I'll send one over. Ooh, there's a few good cars here. Let's see what this one is. $1,700. It's a 2009. It was bought from the auction. Usually when they're bought from an auction, I won't buy them because they're just trying to make a quick profit on you. And you probably won't make much money on those ones. What about this Land Rover? Sometimes they have problems. Yeah, you can see that these things have air suspension, and you can see it's all lowered looking, which means the air suspension's bad, and that costs like $2,000 to do. And these things just have so many electrical problems, so we don't want that, even though it's pretty cheap for the miles. Ooh, okay. A Lexus, under 150,000 miles. Engine light on, that's not that big of a deal, as long as not a horrible problem. And looking over it, it is a little beat up. Oof, it's gonna need a whole new seat probably, unless you just put a cover over it. And when you see this, it looks like, oh, there's check engine light, there's all these lights on. But what's actually happened, it's just in accessory mode, and you could tell because the engine isn't revving. So those lights aren't actually on. But the engine light, you'd have to go in person, or if they know what it is, you could ask them. But go in person, use the OBD2 scanner, and see what the problem is. You can see the bumper was screwed on, which I don't like to see because that kind of ruins the bumper. All this little stuff though, you can kind of polish it out, and then on all the spots that the paint's missing, you use a touch-up pen. It'd need another new tail light because looks like it was replaced with the wrong color. It's kind of a big deal, but if they're going for a good price, it for sure could be worth it to do all that work. So here in another tab, let's see what they're going for. Yeah, it seems the average price on these, just looking over quickly and not even clicking on any of the listings, is around $3,000. This one's $1,600. I'd go in person, negotiate it to $1,200, and this is actually a buy, and you could make maybe $2,000 profit on it. All right, 2013, that's right around the year where cars are worth a little bit more because they're a little bit newer. Looking over this, it looks pretty clean. He took the license plate off, so we couldn't even buy a Carfax if we wanted. Yeah, it was really clean on the inside. He probably cleaned it to sell it. It says it needs catalytic, first takes it. Has a check engine light on, that might be for the catalytic converter, and those are pretty expensive. Let's see what these catalytic converters are going for though. All right, I just searched it up, and there's some that are like 500, some are 1,000. This one's probably an OEM one. And usually for these, you need to buy OEM ones or else it won't clear the engine light. But usually you can find them used on somewhere like eBay or something for half price. So let's just say it would cost $500 to fix. Then go back to listing. We'll be all in at $2,000 and be able to sell it for, let's see what they're selling for, I guess. Around $2,000, maybe you could get $3,000 for it. And just for the work and making $1,000, it's not gonna be worth it. So we're gonna try and find an even better deal. On ones like this, where you can see the mileage says 13K, it doesn't have that many, but I'll always click them just to check if they talk about the mileage. He doesn't talk about the mileage, so I'm not even gonna bother messaging him. This car looks really clean. It looks like it has a new headlight. It looks pretty polished up. It's hard to tell because it's in a garage, but it doesn't look too bad. He says runs and drives. There's no plate on it, which is a little sketchy. I think it was photoshopped out, yeah. It doesn't even say the mileage. This one I had messaged the guy asking for the plate number and for the mileage and see if I'd want to buy it depending on what other problems it has, because he didn't name anything in the description. All right, an Armada. These things aren't too expensive, but they're an SUV, which people love. And looking through here, it doesn't look like there's any problems other than not perfectly cosmetic. You can see that was rusted. Yeah, that's rust right there, and it was repainted around it to try and hide it, but you can tell it probably is not too good under there, and that's gonna fail right away within a few months probably. Yeah, there's more rust there. I don't like to deal with these rusty cars, especially because I live in California and Most cars aren't rusty. It's not like I'm on the east side. So no big deal. We just don't want to buy that car, obviously. 2018 with 118,000 miles. There's no way. Back registration, cars sold as is. It still turns on fine. Yeah, it needs a new transmission. But honestly, a 2018, just if you really wanted to hold on to this car and sell all its parts, it looks like the trunk is good, the bumper is good. All of the parts on this thing look to be in pretty good condition. Like what he said, sold as is 4 parts. It actually might be a good idea. For only $1,500, you probably could get it for $1,000. But I just don't like to hold on to cars and sell them for parts. All right, Cadillac Escalade. I'm not sure what these things really even go for. So before even looking over it, I'm gonna see what they're going for and see if it's worth even considering. 11,000, 5,000. I mean, they're kind of all over the place from $5,000 to $10,000, which means it's gonna be kind of hard to sell because you don't know the exact price, but you could technically get up to $10,000 if you got it in perfect condition and waited long enough to sell it. So I'm gonna look over this car. The first thing I do notice though is like there's a car in the back. Oh, the hood popped. It's behind a gate, meaning this is probably a mechanic. Maybe a mechanic bought it and they're trying to resell it, or maybe it's some sort of flipper or something like that. And also you can see it has seat covers on it, and under the seat covers the seats are destroyed. I bet the driver one is too. See, the odometer matches what they said over here, so that's good. I'm gonna read the description. Over the description it seems like there's nothing, and then they also say asking $5,000, which is good to see. It's kind of saying I'm negotiable on the price a little bit, because they aren't saying I want 5,000. They're like saying I'm asking this, but I might take a little less. I'd honestly ask this guy if there's any problems with it. Well, looking at it right now, we can see that that's the bottom mark for 0 RPMs. And so the car is on, meaning all these lights are actually there. The seatbelt, obviously he's probably just not buckled in, but it does have an airbag light and it has a tire light, which isn't a big deal. The airbag light's the only thing I'd worry about. But airbags can get kind of costly to fix up for a new airbag. And honestly, just because of where it is and it looks like he's flipping cars, I'm not going to even message him. But that one could be a good deal if you went in person and everything checked out. You could buy it. Just when they're a little sketchy, even if it's not that big of a deal, I'd rather just find one that's less sketchy because there's so many deals out here. Might as well do that. This thing's dirty, which I actually like to see because then you can clean it up and get a few $100s extra for it just by washing it. He doesn't say anything about it, which is the only problem. So you'd have to message this guy and ask him what problems are with it. But the outside looks pretty good. There's a couple scrapes, but nothing crazy. Chevy Tahoe Trans is going out. All right, here's a 2014 Nissan Altima. Pretty good price, pretty good miles. It has a problem that turns off while running. If it was a really good deal, I'd buy it, but I'm not gonna even message that guy. All right, this car, it actually could be good because the miles are so low. It does have a salvage title. And looking over the rest, the paint's a little faded. He doesn't put the plate in. Looks like it's been cleaned up, so he's serious about selling this thing, and he got it smogged and everything. I'd be willing to bet this is not gonna be a good deal. All right, what about this one? Only part, clean title, needs plates. Probably needs the registration is what he's saying. There's only one picture. There's a dog though. We like to see that. So we don't know much about this car at all. This is worth messaging the guy though, just because it only has 100,000 miles, if that's true. Which this one kind of seems like it has more, but you just have to buy a Carfax for it. Back to searching for some more deals. Here's a Chevy for $1,500. This is my mom car. Radiator and engine went out on me. Engine went out. $800 or so for labor, $600 for the parts. That's going to be a no just because of how expensive it is to fix. But what about this one? $1,300? Bien, it's good. 200,000 miles. We don't know anything about it. He just doesn't tell us much. I bet it's not actually good. So we're going to keep looking. And once you start doing this and comparing a lot of cars, like we just saw a Cadillac earlier. Now you see this one and it's $8,000. We already know they're in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. So obviously that won't be a good deal. And that's kind of what's going on in my brain. I already know what a lot of these are going for. And so when you look at them for long enough, you start to figure it out and you don't have to do as much comparing. But right before you buy any car, I always recommend you compare it. Not even recommend, like you have to compare it basically to confirm the price, even if you think you know. Unless it's just like a $500 running and driving car. My rule is if it's $1,000 and it's running and driving and the condition isn't like completely destroyed, it's always going to be worth buying. But anything other than that, I'd always double check. Mechanic special, let's just see if they say how many miles. 270,000 miles, yeah. It's not going to be worth fixing up. All right, a minivan, $3,000, 90,000 miles. Turns on, needs new battery. New battery is not a big deal. I would just go in person and bring a battery to make sure it just needs a new battery. That back trim piece, that is trim, so it's easy to replace, so that's not a big deal either. You can just replace it. It's probably $10 or $20. The only thing is the faded paint. There is a way to restore it kind of good and it'll look good enough. And it's $3,000, which is just in the range where I'm like, I'm not sure if it's worth it, but it probably is right around what they're worth. And looking through here, they're around 3,000 to 5,000, actually closer to 5,000 on most of these. So this, if all it needs is a battery and that back trim piece and then the faded paint, is actually worth it and a pretty good deal. You could make $2,000 on this by just fixing it up. I'm grabbing the Carfax right now and let's check that out. All right, here's the Carfax and right away we can already see it says not actual mileage and it has a branded title, which they didn't tell us about either of those. So let's keep going and see what's up with it. You can see there's all sorts of alerts around here because it's a bad car. And when it was new, it was a rental vehicle, which isn't as good. They usually beat up the cars and they have all sorts of random things broken that you're gonna have to fix. Let's scroll down and see what's this issue. Here it was 100,000 miles with mileage. Yeah, it was 200,000 miles and then it just randomly turned into 100,000 miles. Like someone clearly rolled it back and then all these people after that bought it, they just had to deal with it. And like, even this, it was rolled back again from 143 to 100. Then it went to 130,000. So it was re-rolled back. Like, I don't even know. And then it was at 140,000. And now when we go to the listing, he says 90,000. This car's just been over and over rolled back over again, or just tons of lying sellers or messed up reports on the Carfax. This is actually crazy how many times. But obviously we don't want a car with all these warnings and nobody else does either. So that alone will just drive me away from the car. And this is exactly why you should always buy a Carfax, because you do not want to end up buying a car like this, which is why I'm giving away a completely free one linked in the description. Another low miles one that's probably not actually that low of miles. He doesn't say anything about the miles, but I don't trust him. So we're gonna move on. All right, here's a Civic, $1,500. Has almost 300,000 miles. That's not gonna be great. And it has a pick and pull plate on it, which is probably from a junkyard or something like that. I don't know why else it would have that. Dodge Caravan, 130,000 miles. 4 parts, van overheated. These Caravans just overheat like crazy. And they have all sorts of transmission problems. They are nice cars though. 2017, $1,500. I don't believe you. Yeah, it's a dealership. That was just the down payment financing. All right, here's another same version of the minivan we were looking at earlier. Let's see what's up with the problems. AC working hard. It's kind of the same shape as the last one, I'd say. I forget the mileage on the last one. Yeah, now looking at it, there's a lot beat up about this one. I think the last one was a better deal, to be honest. Okay, Scion, only $2,000, 130,000 miles. Price is firm, which is not that good. New battery, but the car hasn't been consistently used. This time the engine won't start. So you might need to just replace the battery again, because it was just sitting and it's draining out. It doesn't look to be in the best condition, but that's expected for these older cars. This one's kind of a, if you know what you're doing and you go in person and everything looks good enough, it's worth buying. But you can see it has a different color door. It was completely destroyed over here. Yeah, now seeing that, that's the quarter panel, and those can't easily be fixed. You have to do a whole bunch of like Bondo and pulling and body work and paint. And all of that takes a lot of time. It's hard to get good at. It's not gonna be worth it. That's all the listings for today. But if you wanna learn how to flip cars, check out this video where I go over everything. I teach you about making more profit and other stuff like that. And as always, I'm wishing you a lucky day.